do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
This was a fork in the road of human civilization.
Well, howdy, my very dear beloved friends. Look out, the phone is still going off and it's right underneath me. I'll turn it off so you don't have to share all that. How are you, good folks? I hope you're doing very well. It's been a interesting few days. Here I am home in Queensland after a shortened stay down south in Canberra. I must say the recent days have been some of the best of certainly my career in this form. The people I have been with and allowed to be around, I feel honoured to have been involved in little bits and pieces, and I mean very little bits and pieces, of what had transpired down in Canberra over the weekend. For those of you who haven't caught up on what happened over the weekend, on Friday we visited the Governor-General and paid tribute to those very hardy souls who have been maintaining the rage against the Governor-General for the last 3 years. Of course, the big celebration was the 1,000-day celebration. That was only a little while ago. But the third-year anniversary wasn't billed as to be anything big and not expected to be anything big. It was only really for the staunch and those who really care. And that's who turned up, as we expected. So thank you to everybody who took the time and brought their dogs, and we had a bloody great time. And trying to hold the new Governor-General accountable, as these wonderful folks do every day. It was interesting to see how the gardening staff at Government House started up their lawnmower just after the last post was played. And their lawnmower is more like a very large tractor, or at least that's what it sounded like. So they tried to get as much noise as possible between the front gates and wherever she lives, and the driveway was fairly long. There was an official car that went in with nobody in it, so assuming at some point they were going to come out, and when I say official car, it had the Governor-General, well, it had a flag on the bonnet. It was all wrapped up, so it was difficult to prove which one it was. But anyway, great day. And then the next day, we caught up with those folks again at Old Parliament House, and we held the grand jury indictments in what was a spectacular venue, and that is the Old Parliament House Senate Courtyard. That video is available to watch. I'm not sure if it's been edited yet. There's about 20 minutes at the start that you sort of just glean past because there's nothing happening. They hadn't really started yet. Vince just got a bit excited at midday and hit the button, I think. But anyway, it was hard to tell when to start as they were running a little bit behind schedule. At any rate, if it hasn't been trimmed yet, it will be shortly. And you can also go and see it at iView.au, not iView. You'll only see shit from the ABC on that. And SBS, of course. Propaganda would be a better name. So that channel, once again, if you want to go and have a look at what happened at Old Parliament House last Saturday, is ibroadcast.au. You'll also find a video there that was played to the audience, and I'm not sure if you saw it in the broadcast. You will if you watch it. But there's a great video there that exposes the lie of the Prime Minister's oath. And if you have any interest in seeing how the red-headed clown behaves in that regard, she doesn't say a word. She doesn't make any oath to anyone. The Governor-General basically says, here you go, sign this, you're appointed. And, of course, it's a CEO role. She sits down, signs it, and does not say a word. Why doesn't she say a word? She's the only Prime Minister in this entire video, and there are a lot of them swearing oaths to all sorts of things. God, unfortunately, isn't anyone or any of them. They swear an oath to something called the Queen of Australia, which if you haven't caught up so far, is, well, please tell me, who is the Queen of Australia and where does she live? And you can transpose that to the King of Australia and where does he live? At any rate, that video is very interesting. I meant to download it myself, but I haven't yet. So go and have a look there at ibroadcast.au and you can check out what happened. Thanks to the Corruption Whistleblower team, an absolutely spectacular group of people. And once again, I want to thank everybody involved, but particularly the hosts who had a large group of people come and descend upon their property and call it home for 3 or 4 or more days. Thank you, gentlemen. Mark and Chris particularly. Thank you so much for your hospitality, your magnificent cooking, the use of your toys, the use of your sheds for bedrooms, and of course, just a beautiful, beautiful setting to have it all in. So thank you for that. And to everybody else who turned up on the day, Saturday in Canberra at Old Parliament House, thank you for your support. It was great to see so many people there. And of course, the people voted to carry the indictment as presented by Peter Horton from the Corruption Whistleblower. Now, remember, when you listen to the evidence that's been presented by Peter, that a pretend law made in excess of power is not and never has been a law at all. Anyone in this country is entitled to disregard it. That was Chief Justice Sir John Latham in 1942 in a decision with South Australia versus the Commonwealth. Remember that, because in the not too distant future, those sorts of things are going to become a lot more important. So thank you to everybody down that part of the world. I'm sorry my trip had to be shortened, unfortunately under sad circumstances. I don't want to go into it in any great detail. Suffice to say that we've lost somebody on the property very close to us through a medical emergency. And it's been difficult on many people, on all of us in vastly different ways, but not least of which 2 people who I talk about here quite a lot, that being Taylor and Dwayne, who are pretty much heroes in my mind and should be in anybody else who knows exactly what happened on Saturday night. So I want to commend them, and if you would all please share your prayers for a wonderful lady whose name is Elizabeth Taylor. And I know it's a bit of a wry smile, but welcome her into God's arms. It's just a sad time. All right, let's move on with the show. Where to begin tonight? There are so many things I want to talk about, and the title of tonight's show, Forgive Them, Father, for they know not what they do or have done, I think I may have put, because I was sort of tossing up between the two. Well, I have a number of reasons for typing that up this evening, but in the context of tonight's program, I want to talk about the forgiveness that we should be giving some of our politicians, the forgiveness that we should be supposedly providing some of our bureaucrats, our medicos, and those who are in general meant to protect us. I don't see a lot of that actually happening. And one of those people who swore an oath, but certainly not to look after we the people, looking after something called the Queen of Australia. And if you're familiar with the corporate entity, you'll understand what I'm talking about. We currently have a former Prime Minister acting in a position of ambassador in the United States of America. He has been an exceptionally vocal anti-Trump supporter, or anti-Trump supporter, that's a bit of a double negative, isn't it? He's been excessively anti-Trump pretty much through the entire Biden administration and previously when Trump was in charge. However, this lunatic, whose wife made millions out of the international boat people saga that happened under the Gillard-Rudd saga, where we had 50,000 illegals arrive in a very short space of time, and we had a boatload of them smashed to death off Christmas Island, you might remember. Well, It seems that Kevin Rudd's name has been caught up in the Doge investigations into US aid. Here's an interesting little image. Now, it appears Kevin Rudd has profited from US aid influence peddling and is a not fit and proper person to represent Australia in the USA. How much is he getting paid or being compensated? $984,222 as the president and CEO president of ASPI, which is a think tank, just one of many he's part of. But that may not be Kevin Rudd's biggest problem. Who knew? Oh, look at this. He said he was blindsided. He had no idea that Jeffrey Epstein had very tight links to the think tank that Kevin Rudd vice-chaired or chaired for 6 years. Had absolutely no idea that Epstein, the convicted pedophile, had donated $650,000 to the International Peace Institute. Oh, it came as a terrible shock, said Kevin. I'll go to my wife and see if she can buy me something to calm my nerves. I think that's probably what it would be. Well, this Doge investigation into America's money has also hit a bit of a snag. The Doge investigators want access to the US payment system. They will truly find out who's getting the money. And of course, those in charge of the US payment system, the bureaucrats in charge of the US payment system, have gone to court and they've found a judge who is prepared to believe that the bureaucrats get to override the president and has put a stay or a stop against the Doge investigators gaining access to the US pay registration or the payroll, everything. It'll show it's our entire payment system. Now, Elon Musk has already found, I think it was $1 billion worth of wastage just in the Pentagon alone. Now, he has also, I'm led to believe, asked the CIA to account for all their money, and there is a bit of missing money and all that. The last time the Pentagon was asked to account for all or audit all its money, or was audited for all its money, there was $3.9 billion missing. They couldn't account for it. And I beg your pardon, it wasn't the last time. That was the time before it was audited. The last time, there was $1.9 billion missing. They can't account for this money. Now, the US payment system will show exactly where that money went. But somebody in the system is fighting back, saying, oh, no, this is unconstitutional. Elon Musk and his team can't poke around inside of that. Oh, no, we won't have any of that at all. Well, I think there's some fighting back. It looks like Vice President Vance is stepping up, and this is a very good sign. Vance is a fighter, and if you listen to Benjamin Fulford, and I know many probably people here do, then Benjamin has had some pretty interesting news over the last few days that he shared through his system. And that includes the fact that Donald Trump was aboard that Black Hawk helicopter that hit the airliner going into Reagan International Airport and was killed in that accident, inverted commas. He presents a number of very good arguments that Trump was replaced. One of those arguments, or why was Trump traveling in a Black Hawk? Okay. If the president wants to fly out of the White House and doesn't want to be seen doing it, doesn't want any hoo-ha, they do not use Marine One. There are other helicopters that presidents can use, including military Black Hawks. In fact, most likely military Black Hawks. A new Saudi embassy has been built in Washington, and the backstory is that Trump had been negotiating a $1 trillion loan from the Saudis to get America out of the shit and try and bolster, I suspect, probably their gold reserves. And he had plans within a very short time frame to board Air Force One and head to Europe, where he was due to meet up with the International Crime Commission and speak to them regarding the charges against Benjamin Netanyahu and what could be done to bring him to trial, or at least to the courts, to face a trial. Now, after the helicopter crash, Benjamin explains that Trump never arrived for that meeting in Europe. However, Benjamin Netanyahu did arrive in Washington, which wasn't quite expected. Not only what wasn't quite expected was the announcements coming from Donald Trump, which seemed to be 180 degrees in opposition to things he'd said publicly and stated through Truth Social and other places prior. This has raised a few flags, clearly for Benjamin. He is so convinced of this and other facts, and I'm not going to repeat Benjamin's show for him. Please feel free to go and watch it. I would argue research. See what you think. But I would argue Donald Trump is being very different to the Donald Trump I expected him to be, and particularly in the Israel argument. We will see what happens. I would also ask you to go and get some prior vision of Trump and Netanyahu meeting prior to the most recent time. Try and get vision of where they're standing side by side and see how much taller Trump is to Netanyahu, except in the latest vision where Trump appears to be the same height as Netanyahu. Things that make you go, that's what I reckon. So, yeah. Now, we've been calling for Australia to have a similar form of Doge inquiry, an independent but overseen organisation that gets to look at the books and find out where the money is truly going. And some people might be very surprised to find out that we're spending a lot of it in Papua New Guinea. Now, this is an investment summary. 22-23, they spent nearly $2.9 million. This is money given to the Papua New Guinea Superannuation Investment Fund, and the plan is due to end on the 30th of the 6th, 2025. The total estimated investment value is $325,905,971. I'll say that one more time. $325,905,971. Why? All right. Why? Well, this appears to be the story. Why? Funding under this proposal supports the Papua New Guinea superannuation scheme, specifically retirement and other benefits paid to approximately 200 Papua New Guinean ex-officials of pre-independence administrations. Payments are made under special administrative arrangement, which assigns responsibility to the Commissioner of Superannuation for the payments of pensions under the Superannuation Ordinance 1917 of the Territory of Papua and the Superannuation Ordinance of 1928 of the Territory of New Guinea. The Superannuation Papua New Guinea Ordinance 1951 provided retirement benefits for employees of the administration of the Territory of Papua and New Guinea through the establishment of the Papua New Guinea Superannuation Fund. The Superannuation Board, which was constituted under the 1951 Ordinance, was also empowered to administer the funds established under the Superannuation Ordinance 1917 of the Territory of Papua and the Superannuation Ordinance of 1928, the Territory of New Guinea. Since 1 July 1976, the Papua New Guinea Superannuation Scheme has been administered by the Commissioner for Superannuation in accordance with Section 20 of the Papua New Guinea Staffing Assistance Act 1973, the act. 1973 had a number of acts. Must have been a great year for plays, don't you think? The Papua New Guinea Staffing Assistance Superannuation Regulations made under Section 65 of the Act came into operation on 1 December 1973. These regulations provided retirement benefits of the same nature and at the same levels as the 1951 Ordinance, and provided for continuity with respect to the payment of benefits approved in the Ordinance in accordance with the 1917 and 1928 Ordinances. The regulations also contain detailed provisions of the scheme. So my kind of question is, why were we paying the superannuation benefits? Now, I guess there could be an argument for it, but and quite a genuine one. I'm just unaware of how you'd make it, and I'm all ears if somebody can explain it to me. This is pre-independence we're talking about. So my brain is very tired. I've had a big few days. Got more to come. So maybe it's something obvious and I'm just missing it. If that is the case, then I apologise. But it certainly did catch my eye, so to speak. All right. Before we get on and start playing a few videos, I want to talk about Skipper Pete. But I'll talk about Skipper Pete right after this.
Are you passionate about supporting independent media and social events? Voice of Freedom is dedicated to bringing you the latest happenings and things that matter. But we can't do it without your help. By donating, sponsoring, or becoming a member, you're not just supporting our mission. You're joining a community that values transparency and engagement. Your contributions allow us to continue producing high-quality content that informs and inspires. Visit VOFHQ.com to make a donation or explore sponsorship or membership opportunities. You can even donate using crypto. Together, we can amplify voices that deserve to be heard as we continue to create a vibrant platform for social change. Go to VOFHQ.com. Help us to help you by joining us and making a difference today.
Thank you very much if you choose to try and help us. In the coming few weeks, you'll learn a bit more. But I can tell you that anything you can spare at the moment is desperately needed. We have a few interesting projects coming forward, but it requires needing to move some distance, and we're planning to do that in the very near future. So if you can help, we could really use it. Just saying. Speaking of people who could really use some support, help and assistance and a lot of prayers and love, the folks who live in far north Queensland currently being flooded and suffering some truly amazing weather. The floods up there are breaking records. There are creeks and rivers up there that have never reached the levels that they have reached during this flood. Ingham, where Skipper Pete lives, is cut off. There is a bridge between Townsville and Ingham, and it just washed away. Now, I believe they are railing cars across and trucks across on rail cars, because the rail bridge at least is still standing. And I think they're doing a lot of work on filling the hole that is left where the bridge once was. But there is absolutely nothing left of it. And it's going to take some days. I think Skipper Pete told me Wednesday or Thursday, I think he said. So all supplies into Ingham are being flown in, I think, or if there are trucks getting through, they must be coming up the inland route, I'm assuming, and maybe coming back down from somewhere further north of Ingham, although I'm led to believe that everywhere from the far north Queensland right down is absolutely sodden, absolutely drenched, and my thoughts, feelings and love go out to everybody up there. We're looking forward to being able to help in any way we can, and please reach out, carl@vofhq.com, if we can help you. I do have some news. We are in a position where we might be able to help provide some accommodation for people who are not able to well, let me not overstate this. What we have access to is a number of pre-prepared dwellings that we can make available at very, very reasonable prices. We realise that a lot of people in far north Queensland may be out of their homes for some time, be that months or years. And we may have a way to help some people get through those times, and we want to be able to help. So if you know people who are in that sort of position where their house, and what happens in far north Queensland, for those of you that live in southern states, what happens in far north Queensland when a house floods? Well, most of the houses that aren't new are Queenslander styles or built on sticks, or not generally at ground level, but generally a little bit higher. That is because most are stumped at least 4 feet high off the ground, because it allows air to circulate under them. In a very hot climate, you want air coming through as much as you can and being circulated as much as you can, so they're off the ground a little bit. However, the water, when it comes, is big. Lots and lots of water. Skipper Pete told me today he's had 2.3 metres of water on the property in 14, 15 days. Day one was 30 mil, day two was 60 mil. So he had 90 mil after 2 days. He's had 2.3 metres in 13 days. That's the kind of scale of water. So when it gets into a house, it seeps into the floorboards, gets into your skirting boards, or gets deeper. And this is what I'm saying. These floods have never been this high before. Houses that have never been inundated have got 4 foot of water through them. And when the waters recede, there is the cleaning. What do you do with all the plasterboard? Well, you can't really just paint over it. And mould is a huge and very, very serious problem. Right now in far north Queensland, it's pissing down, still pissing down. But that will stop. And that'll stop in the next few days. When it does stop, the humidity will begin, the real humidity. Punishing, endless, 100%, almost like you are breathing water, humidity, on top of 30 plus degree days. This is perfect mold growing ground, and it is exceptionally dangerous mold. It's a black mold that will make you extremely sick. It grows inside the wall cavities. You basically have to strip everything out and start again, and then, you know, who knows, in 6 months, in 6 days, or next year, guaranteed it's going to happen again, because it always happens. So some people will be rebuilding. This is going to take a long time. We know from floods further south that builders are hard to come by, and rebuilding takes time. So emergency housing, or something that you can live in now and keep and use later as a granny flat or as an office or as a whatever, we might be able to help out. So if you know someone in that regard, please reach out, carl@vofhq.com, and I'll put you in touch with the people who will be able to help. And there's sort of a great variety of things that can be offered. So please bear that in mind if you find yourself in far north Queensland needing a hand. Before I go to some other videos, I just want to mention a couple of things. I'm looking over here because I have a list. A question was asked today in Telegram: what does Australia have in common with the following countries? North Korea, China, Vietnam, Eritrea, Turkmenistan, Iran, Cuba, Syria, Burma, Uzbekistan, and Belarus. Well, the answer to that is all these countries restrict free speech, though censorship, they do it through censorship, and legal penalties, including control over the media. Remember that. It's important. This is what we've paid Albanese and Dutton to implement, essentially, here in Australia. They have done a truly magnificent job, and we are all quite incredulous about the way that we continue to hire buffoons into positions who say they can do a job, and you agree to give them a chance at that job. You pay them a shitload of money to do that job, And regardless of whether or not they actually do that job well or not, you can't say anything about it because, it's picking on me. You're not allowed to do that. And you'll go to jail for it. I think the person who wrote this on Twitter is exceptionally intelligent. As I think most Australians are. And that should, in part, wake people up, I would have thought, to the corporation that's running the country. But it doesn't seem to do that. We've got to repeal the laws that let them do that. Can we repeal the laws? Well, let's hope. I don't think. I think we've got to start again. Trump doesn't like the way that they've put in these hate speech laws. They've hammered free speech here in Australia. While you will have heard today that Donald Trump has leveled a 25% tax on our steel and aluminium exports to the USA, effectively costing us a huge amount of money, what you haven't been told is why he has done it. He has done it, and openly said it, is because of the way the Australian government is limiting free speech through its hate speech laws. Oops. And who's going to be negotiating our way out of that? The Australian ambassador, Kevin Rudd. You remember Kevin Rudd, don't you? Hang on a minute, I'll just show you, because we want to be sure. It'd be that Kevin Rudd who has picked up $984,222 through US aid. The same Kevin Rudd who had no idea that Epstein the pedophile had donated to his think tank $650,000, even though he was the chairman and the vice chair of that think tank for 6 years. This is the quality of intelligence that we place in our ambassadorship in the United States. Are the normies going to wake up or think any more about it? They can't. They've been programmed. They refuse to believe that, Kevin Rudd could be like that. And they just turn off. They won't look at the evidence. They don't consider the logic. I urge you to download the brief of evidence that we delivered on Saturday. When I say we, Peter delivered the brief of evidence on Saturday from the corruption whistleblower. The work that has gone into that is extremely detailed. I urge you to download it and consider it. And should you decide to go further with it, then great. Should you not, well, that's your choice and fair to you. But please avail yourself of the knowledge. And I address this to those who would just poo-poo and criticize the entire idea as whatever. I agree, and I will fight for your right to cast shit upon the idea for as long as you want. What I won't do is condone you doing it without you having objectively considered the evidence that's being offered. Now, I've said this in the last few days, few weeks, few months, maybe the last few years, and it applies to lots of different subjects. But in this particular instance, it applies perfectly. The evidence packet is detailed. It offers you comparison. It shows you fact. It points out fiction and presents the evidence as to why that is the case. It is detailed. It is not hard. And I would have thought people from many backgrounds, but particularly those of you who like to, disagree so vehemently, shall I say, with a lot of the things that we truthers have to say, you've all got letters after your name. You've all gone to school for a very long time. You've all got marvelous awards because people have told you just how spectacularly good you are because you took the programming. And that's what it is. You took the programming. You wouldn't have those letters after your name if you asked questions of your lecturers, if you pushed the boundaries and questioned why things that made you go, weren't answered. There's another reason for that. People that question teachers in high school and don't get the right answers very rarely go on to university because they don't trust the information they've been given. Now, whether they recognise that at the time or not, and some are just never destined for it, I agree, but whether or not they trust that information at the time or not is neither here nor there. The fact of the matter is they've gone on to life experience rather than being told about experience and offered a carrot of a few letters after their name after a few years in school, and all they have to do in return is take on a very large debt that they can pay off for the rest of their lives. These people haven't understood how the trap works, and I'm not sure that they ever will. They have been so well programmed. But if they are capable of objectively viewing the evidence that Peter Horton presented from the corruption whistleblower on Saturday, and you can download that evidence package at vofhq.com, if you can refute that in any way with any valid argument rather than just what you think of it, I'm not interested in what you think, I'm interested in what you can prove. So if you can prove something, I want to hear from you. Your arguments are important. We have to hear them. We want to try and convince you of ours. You want to try and convince us of yours. We can come together and speak civilly about these things. And when we present an evidence document like the grand jury indictment file, it is your opportunity to really catch us out. It is your opportunity to really put a nail through the heart of the movement. Well, at least a section of the heart of the movement. You just need to do it with facts, not fiction, with logic, not hate, and with no intent, no bad, mean, nasty intent. We're not trying to hurt you with what we're presenting here. We are presenting evidence. That is all. If you want to play, defense attorney, please present the evidence of your defense. I'm sure Peter, I'm sure Donna, I'm sure Auntie Glenda, and a plethora of other people that were involved in putting that document together would love the opportunity to sit down with you and discuss your findings versus theirs. We'd love to show it if you're brave enough to actually use your name and come on and be seen. And of course, sad none of you are. So instead, we remain the people walking past the monkeys who are behind the bars, constricted into their world, but are really good at shitting into their own hand and throwing it at us. We're getting pretty good at dodging it, just saying. I had a couple of interesting videos I wanted to show you tonight. The first one, I can't actually verify it's real. I haven't had time to actually do any detailed research into it, but I thought it looked pretty cool. So you might remember a couple of weeks ago, there was a very, very interesting craft flying around Las Vegas. Now, and it is Las Vegas, right? Los Angeles, Las Vegas, just kilometer, not kilometer, just saying. Anyway, we had a video sent through today, and it's a much more detailed look at that craft. I have some suspicions as to whether this is real. I have very great suspicions, but as I say, I haven't had the opportunity yet to have a detailed look at it. I would ask you to watch the waves. I would ask you to look at a variety of things on the deck and keep your ears open, and we'll have a talk about it after you watch this. I think the comments speak for themselves. It does look like something out of Halo. It does indeed look like something out of Halo. And the backgrounds for me look a bit AI, and I don't know. I haven't seen it on a big screen. I've seen it on something that's about 4 inches big and 2 inches high, and very difficult at this stage to give you a proper opinion, but I just thought I'd play it because it looked pretty cool. And given that we've played some video the other day of something that looked suspiciously like that flying around Las Vegas, then I thought I'd show it again. That is being touted as the new US Navy flight machine. They haven't given it a name, but it's apparently US Navy. It looks like it's coming off the flight deck of something at sea, so it stands to reason. But a very interesting piece of military hardware, as Paul has said, if it is in fact real. And I'm sure there is every way it could be real. All it is 4 jet engines shoved on something that's got relatively stubby wings and VTOL technology, vertical takeoff and landing. So do a lot with 4 jets. So I don't know, be interesting. Be very interesting to see. After all, the Ospreys, the tilt rotor aircraft that they've been flying now for over 20 years, are reaching the end of their usable life, so to speak. That probably means that there's going to be a bunch of them coming to Australia anytime soon. So yeah, a lot of things. Carl, what a very good thing. Jet screaming and no exhaust distortion at all. There you go. I knew there was something I was missing that was pretty obvious, but once again, small screen. So yeah, there is a lot of bullshit going around at the moment. And I was speaking to one of the bullshit sniffers, the best bullshit sniffers that I know today. In fact, I've spoken to a lot of bullshitters today, but I've spoken to some really good bullshit sniffers today. And one of those is Black Sheep down in Tasmania, where we were talking about UFOs, amongst other things. And I would just like to thank him for his counsel today, and the $50 that he sent over the flat earth, round earth argument, which I think he won, and I still somehow managed to get $50 out of it. So he's a very kind man. And my best to you, my friend, and you and your dad. I hope you're doing okay down there. Thanks, Wayne, for Wilmo. A fake thing, saw it a long time ago. It's too fake looking for me to really be involved with. So anyway, I thought it was just a bit of fun to play out because, well, I'll be frank, the last few days I've been, the last few days I've traveled 2,000 kilometers, and the brain has been worked in a variety of different ways, and I guess I'm going to sleep well. I had a good sleep last night when I got there, but anyway, there are people in Puerto Rico who are not having a good sleep tonight. There has been an earthquake in the last couple of days in the Canary Islands, and from that 7.6 magnitude earthquake, I want to think it was, nothing good has come, obviously, including a tsunami, which has reached Puerto Rico. Now, you're going to hear some audio here from a gentleman, obviously speaking Puerto Rican. There isn't a translation of what he said, but you can hear just the urgency and then the absolute sorrow in this man's voice as you watch a tsunami coming in.
Tsunami! Well, arcata tsunami! Lari ke atas ba? Tsunami ba? Tsunami ba? Lari pa ke atas? Lari ke atas? Tsunami! Lari ke atas? Tsunami mo! Ba't ke atas mo? Tsunami! Tsunami! Lari ke atas mo! Tsunami! Air! Lari ke atas mo! Cepat naik! Naik! Tsunami dyan, turun Naik, cepat naik! Bodoh sekali ini orang ya! Naik, bodoh memang itu! Naik, go! Ibu, naik, air! Ibu, air, ibu! Inilah tsunami, bu! Naik, tsunami! Inilah tsunami! tsunami. Inilah tsunami. Inilah tsunami. Inilah tsunami. Inilah tsunami ya Allah. Ya Allah tsunami ya Allah. Ya Allah Kota Palu ya Allah. Ya Allah tsunami ya Allah. Ini ya Allah tsunami ya Allah. Ya Allah. Ya Allah tsunami 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 ya Allah. Ya Allah astagfirullah ya Allah. Ya Allah tsunami. Ya Allah inilah tsunami ya Allah. Ya Allah astagfirullah.
So that was the second tsunami wave that you saw approaching the beach at that time. So I think that vision is a day or two old now. So what we don't get to see, obviously, is what happens when the tsunami wave goes back out again, and the devastation and life lost in the doing. So I'm sorry to end on that note, but it is one of those things that's happening around the world. That earthquake happened at 10 kilometers deep under the Cayman Islands and off Georgetown. Just saying, things are weird. There's a couple of more breaking items before we go tonight. 18 states attorneys general in the US have launched an investigation into Dr. Fauci's role in the COVID-19 response and condemning Biden's blanket pardon as a disgraceful attempt to shield him from accountability, while hinting that prosecution is still on the table. That's not bad. And something else that's popped out just in the last hour, maybe, the Department of Education has been eliminated. This is American news. Anything's possible. So, and quite a lot of it is likely. However, there is always the opportunity that it's not happening. Bear in mind, do your own research always, because if you don't do that, you'll just be blindly following someone who told you what to do. And we're not that kind of people, are we? That would put us somewhere in the realm of, I don't know, a dickhead on the road to their own oblivion.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!